find myself to visit Hitler's old house. I've always had a large interest in World War II history, so I thought the opportunity was quite intriguing. When I arrived, I noticed a letter underneath the table, so I picked it up and looked inside. It turned out that it was a letter written by Adolf Hitler, regarding a dischargement from the military. It seemed very authentic as it looked quite aged and was even signed by someone by the name of Werner von Frisch of Württemberg. After finding it, I knew I had to learn more. This letter was written by one of the worst leaders of all time. So I sought out a history detective to help me out.
Hello, my name is Eliana Rivas and I am a historical detective. When Lindsay first approached me with this artifact, I was quite intrigued. The first thing I noticed was the person it was written by. Who was Werner von Fritz and why would he write this? What was his role? So, I did some research and found out that Werner von Fritz was actually the Colonel General during the year 1920, which this letter was written. I also noticed that the general wrote with a lot of confidence in the idea that Hitler would excel in his future endeavors. But why? We have all heard of the terrors that Hitler has caused, so why would someone as important as a Colonel General have so much faith in him? Did he not see Hitler's terrible actions or comments, or was it just that they had not taken place yet? This letter had led me down a road of questions that needed to be answered. Were there any important events in Hitler's life that led to his abuse of power? Did Hitler's need for terror stem from his family dynamic? And how far back does this hatred go? Does it go as far as his own family? And most importantly, were there any important events in his life that could have led to his terrible actions towards others? In order to answer these questions, we sought out some perspective from a 100-year-old Holocaust survivor. Here's Layla Perez.
Thank you for having me here today. I think this letter is very interesting because it is hard to believe that anyone can ever have so much pure faith in someone like Hitler. It makes me wonder if something like this, being discharged from the army, could be the reason for his terrible actions towards me and so many other people. I hope that your research goes well and might answer these questions that so many people will never even hear because of these horrible decisions. Thank you, Miss, for this amazing opportunity.
That was some amazing insight from a wonderful woman. Thank you so much for your contribution. We greatly appreciate how much you've given us through this video. Now that we've gotten more of a personal perspective in regard to the artifact, it is time to get an expert involved. For this, we're going to bring a professor from USC over FaceTime. Her name is Isabella Mendoza, and she had a doctorate in the area of Hitler's background and upbringing. Here she is now.
Hello, I'm so glad that you have approached me as this artifact is very beneficial to the subject for which I have a doctorate for. I understand that you are very interested in whether or not this letter was a part of an important event in Hitler's life. But in order to answer this question, I think that it is first important to learn some more about Hitler's past. First off, though many are not aware, recent studies have shown that Hitler is actually of North African and Jewish descent. This is quite shocking for most, since these are two ethnicities that he was greatly against. Also, Hitler's parents were drastically very different from each other. His mother, Clara, was a compassionate woman and deeply cared for her son. Research has shown that though she tried to indulge her son, his father, Leos, did not agree. His father was known to be an extremely strict and distant man. His father added a lot of pressure onto Hitler to take up a career in the field of civil services. Because of this, when Hitler's father passed, Hitler in a way felt relieved. His father's death meant that he would be able to pursue his own passions. He was very interested in pursuing a career in the field of art. As a result, in 1907, Hitler made a move to Vienna in order to pursue his passion. He applied to the Vienna Academy of Arts, but he was denied acceptance to the school. This was not the only school in Vienna that Hitler was denied acceptance to, though. He was also rejected from the Vienna School of Architecture because of the fact that he could not supply them with a school leaving certificate. But now that you have some background regarding Hitler, we are ready to dive further into this investigation regarding the letter. I have seen many dischargement letters in my time here at the university, so it is very clear that this is an authentic letter. Also, as previously mentioned by you, this letter was written by Werner von Fritsch, who I have come across in my research as Colonel General during the 1920s. Speaking of the 1920s, the time at which the letter was sent, May 1920, actually lines up with the time in which he was discharged from the military. Now that we have verified that the letter is indeed authentic, we can move on to analyzing it. For my master's thesis, I actually did research on what events were most likely imperative to Hitler's involvement with the Nazi Party. One of which I believe is his dischargement from the military. Before Hitler was discharged from the military, he was only, in a way, a partial member of the Nazi Party. When he was a part-time member, it was actually known as the German Workers' Party. It was only after he was discharged from the army that he became heavily involved with the German Workers' Party. Also, though not many are aware, it was actually Hitler who changed the name of the party to the National Socialist German Workers' Party, more well known as the Nazis. Hopefully you found this information very helpful to your investigation.
Thank you so much for your contribution. Now it's time to meet back up with the person who discovered this artifact and draw some final conclusions. Hello, Lindsay. It's great to see you again. I've gathered some substantial evidence in regards to this artifact, and I think you'll be very pleased.
That is thrilling. I cannot wait to find out what you have discovered through this letter.
Well, first off, I want to inform you about some interesting answers to two of your questions first. So, first off, I learned that surprisingly enough, Hitler was actually of North African and Jewish descent. Now, this is quite shocking for most, as he was very anti-Semitic and he was against many races, including North African and Jewish. But due to DNA analyzation, he found this out. And also, I learned about Hitler's family dynamic, and it was a bit confusing as his parents seemed to be polar opposites. His father was very strict, but his mother was really, really caring. But above all, I think I answered the most important question. Were there any important events in Hitler's life that could have led to this abuse of power?
What was the answer?
Well, since you asked, after substantial research and investigation, we have concluded that Hitler's dischargement from the army was actually the traumatic event that we believe could have caused all of his terror. Now, let me explain. So based on the evidence we gathered, we know that he wouldn't have joined the Nazi Party full-time unless he was discharged from the army. Because before he was discharged from the army, he was only a part-time member. So if he would have never been discharged, he would have never moved on and gained all that power that he did within the Nazi Party. So overall, I think we really answered all our questions in regards to this artifact.
Wow, that is interesting. Thank you so much.
No problem. It was a pleasure. And I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode of History Detectives.